An affluent husband becomes the main suspect in the disappearance of his wife's lovers. After his morning workout, Vic finds his wife Melinda staring at him. She then heads upstairs while Vic goes to a different room. Later, their daughter, Trixie, plays a nursery rhyme, but this annoys Melinda. As the babysitter arrives, Melinda orders her daughter to turn off the music. Still, Trixie plays the song again despite knowing that it drives her mother crazy. Upstairs, Melinda asks Vic's opinion on what to wear for the soiree, but he tells her she looks beautiful in what she's wearing. As he's helping her put on her heels, she tells him that she loves him, but he doesn't reciprocate. At the soiree, the couple shares with their friends that they let Trixie decide on enrolling in a public school. When asked about the competition for college, Vic believes that Trixie's brilliant, and sending her to college is the worst they could do. Later, Vic observes Melinda, who greets a young man named Joel. He follows them and finds them making out outside. Melinda stops as she notices her husband watching them. A concerned friend named Mary approaches Vic, noticing that Melinda and Joel got together in such a short time. Melinda suddenly invites Vic to dance, but he says he doesn't want to ruin her evening, so she leaves with Joel. Mary reveals to Vic that Joel was invited because Melinda asked their friends. She wonders if Melinda and Joel are intimate, but Vic isn't concerned about it. After a while, Vic finds a drunk Melinda playing the piano, so he watches her fondly. Afterward, Joel greets Vic and calls him nice for allowing him to see his wife. Vic is offended by this, but Joel goes on that most husbands would have been jealous. Pissed, Vic mentions Martin McRae, who disappeared around town. He hints that Martin dated Melinda, so he killed him. Joel grows concerned, thinking it's not funny to joke about their friend, but Vic clarifies that he wasn't friends with Martin. Alarmed, Joel insists that he doesn't believe him, but Vic shrugs it off. Suddenly, Melinda sees Joel storming off. As they're going home, Melinda asks Vic what he and Joel talked about, but he dodges the question. His wife believes that he said something, as Joel was different after they spoke. Upon arriving home, Vic pays the babysitter, but Melinda starts removing her dress and goes to the kitchen. Seeing this, Vic blocks her as the babysitter can see her. Pissed, Melinda hurries to the bedroom. In bed, Vic helps Melinda change clothes and comments that she should have picked someone intelligent. Melinda reveals that despite Joel being dumb, he allows her to enjoy herself, which turns her on. Hearing this, Vic starts touching his wife, but Melinda just tells him to close the door on his way out. Deep in thought, Vic finds solace in his snail farm. The next day, Trixie works on her science experiment, so Melinda comments that she'll be like her father, who builds bombs. Trixie defends that Vic doesn't make bombs but computer chips. After Vic sends Trixie to school, a neighbor named Kristen greets him and jokes that he should have called her to cover up for his crime of murdering Martin. Vic clarifies that it's a joke, and she says that she hopes it is since the rumor has spread, but it worked in scaring off Melinda's suitor. At lunch, his friends Jonas and Grant comment about the rumor. Concerned, Grant advises Vic to rein Melinda in because she's been flaunting her lovers to everybody. Back home, Melinda confronts Vic about threatening Joel. She cries that Martin was her friend, so he shouldn't be joking about him. Vic apologizes, but she demands that he also apologizes to Joel, whom she's inviting to dinner on Friday. Hearing this, Vic dreads the day. On Friday, Joel arrives, but Vic claims that it'll just be the two of them. This makes Joel worried until Vic clarifies that it was a joke. Trixie asks who he is, so Vic introduces Joel as her mother's friend, like Martin McRae. Joel shares that he's got a job in New Mexico, so he'd be leaving town. Vic then declares it's his last supper, so he'll cook lobster bisque. However, Joel mentions that he's allergic to shellfish. At dinner, while the adults talk, Trixie watches Joel with glaring eyes. Since Joel is allergic to his dish, Vic made him grilled cheese. Melinda grabs a piece, claiming that she doesn't like lobster bisque. She praises Vic's grilled cheese, so he teases that she has the appetite of a 12-year-old. He recalls taking her to the best restaurant, only for her to order mac and cheese. Melinda thinks Vic was ashamed of her, but Vic reminds her that she ordered from the children's menu to save room for alcohol. Melinda comments that Vic isn't normal since he can't let things go. He defends that if he were normal, he wouldn't have dinner with her lover. Feeling uneasy, Joel goes to the restroom. Suddenly, Melinda tells Trixie to go to bed and asks Vic to read her bedtime stories, surprising her husband. Before she sleeps, Trixie asks Vic why her mother acts differently around other people. Vic thinks that it's just who she is, but this confuses his daughter. Trixie also reveals that she doesn't like Joel. Afterward, Vic sees Melinda having fun with Joel. He goes to the kitchen and intentionally drops a plate to ruin their moment. Melinda checks on him and insists that she does the dishes in the morning, clearly wanting him to go while she spends time with her lover. She then pours Joel a drink and requests Vic to hand it to him as she'll leave for a moment. Alone with Vic, Joel asks if he'll apologize for threatening him. Vic, however, doesn't want to, and insists that he did kill Martin McRae with a hammer. This scares Joel. Suddenly, Vic declares that Joel's Uber is here. Joel didn't book one, so Vic clarifies that he did. forcing him to leave. One day, at another party, the family meets noir writer Don Wilson and his young wife Kelly. When asked about his work, Vic reveals that he's retired, and Melinda adds that it's because he invented a computer chip used for warfare. Don comments that it's unethical, but Vic tells him that he just made the chip. Concerned, Don shares that drones are used to kill innocent people. Vic, on the other hand, believes that it might be used to send food to starving children, but Don disagrees. Later, Vic invites Kelly to dance, which surprises everyone since he doesn't dance at parties. As they head home, Melinda comments that Vic had fun with Kelly. She asks if he wants to sleep with her, but he replies that it's not what he thinks. Jealous, Melinda goes down on him while he's driving, asking him if he thinks Kelly is good in bed. Vic doesn't respond, so she hurts him. He complains that they could get into an accident, but Melinda claims that if he wants Kelly more than her, then she doesn't mind getting them both killed. When they arrive home, Vic and Melinda get intimate. The next day, the couple watches their daughter play soccer. Vic suddenly gets a call from the bank, stating that Melinda's account has insufficient funds to cover the $3,000 check issued to Charlie Delisle for piano lessons. Suspicious, Vic calls different establishments and learns that Charlie will be performing at the Oak Tree Lounge. At the lounge, Vic observes Charlie playing the piano. Melinda arrives and sits near Charlie, unaware that her husband is there. This confirms Vic's suspicions. Vic arrives home, where he sees Melinda's wedding ring by the sink. He also hears the news that Martin's corpse was found, having been shot to death. Later, Melinda arrives home and claims that she had dinner with her new friend, whom she believes that Vic will like. He then turns serious and reveals that Martin was found. This surprises Melinda, so Vic apologizes, though she doubts that he's sorry. The next day, Vic and Trixie adopt a dog. On their way home, Trixie wonders about her mother, so Vic assures her that she's just sad about her friend's passing. As he's driving, Vic notices Charlie walking by with flowers in his hand. At their house, Vic sees the same flowers on the table, so he angrily throws them away. Keen on observing Charlie, he goes to the Oak Tree Lounge with Grant, revealing that Charlie gives Melissa piano lessons, which Grant immediately understands the meaning of. Back home, Vic de-stresses at his snail farm, though his mind imagines Melinda with Charlie. The following day, Vic pours coffee for his wife, only to find her bed empty. Melinda soon sneaks back home, so Vic demands why she didn't come home last night and why she issued a check to Charlie. She dodges the questions, so Vic demands what she's doing. Melinda comments that her husband is finally showing some emotion and dares him to ask her directly what she's doing with Charlie. Vic reminds her that they have a daughter, but Melinda points out that it was his choice to have one. Still, he demands her to stop seeing Charlie. Unthreatened, Melinda dares him to divorce her, but he refuses, asserting that she must listen to him. Teasing his sudden assertiveness, Melinda starts flirting with him, but assumes that he can't make love to her because that requires passion. He angrily tells her that he does love her. When asked if she's in love with Charlie, Melinda merely comments that if Vic was married to someone else, he'd be so bored he'd kill himself. Soon, the couple attends a pool party where Charlie is invited. Melinda gladly introduces him to everyone and urges him to play a song on the piano. While everyone's dancing, Melinda rubs herself against her husband. Afterward, Melinda introduces him to Charlie. When asked if they've already met, Vic denies it. That night, Vic finds Melinda and Charlie sneaking out to the pool. He follows them and quietly watches them swim and have fun. Rain falls, so everyone goes inside, leaving Vic and Charlie at the pool. Vic checks if no one's watching before turning his attention to Charlie. Later, Vic goes inside the house, having changed clothes. Melinda starts looking for Charlie and screams upon finding him floating in the pool. The men immediately lift him but accidentally drops him, making Charlie hit his head on the floor. Vic performs CPR, but a hysterical Melinda screams that he's not doing it right. She screams at their friend, who accidentally hits her, so she gets taken back inside. Moments later, Deputy Clark interrogates them, so Grant explains that he and Vic were the last to leave the pool. Suddenly, Melinda accuses Vic of killing Charlie. Chief Nichols decides to get all their accounts to know everyone's sides. Soon, he interrogates Vic privately. Vic claims that he doesn't know if Melinda slept with Charlie and declares that he loves her for who she is, so he doesn't question her about such things. When asked if he killed Charlie, Vic calmly says no and explains that Charlie was still alive when he and Grant left. On the way home, Melinda cries and slaps Vic, devastated by what happened to Charlie. When they arrive home, Vic confronts Melinda if she wants a divorce, and adds that she should be afraid of him if she thinks he killed Charlie. However, Melinda confidently says no since she's the one he killed him for. The next day, Vic bikes outside, recalling what he did to Charlie. He then notices that a car is following him. After sending Trixie off to school, Vic is approached by Kelly, who reveals that Don thinks he killed Charlie and invited Melinda to share his theories. Because of this, Vic invites them over for dinner. The Wilsons soon arrive at the couple's residence. While at his snail farm, Vic tells Don to refrain from spreading accusations, insisting that Charlie accidentally died in the pool. Don, however, suspects that he drowned Charlie. He adds that he finds Vic weird for taking pleasure in claiming that he killed Martin. Vic then eerily approaches Don with a power drill, only to use it to fix the ceiling. Don challenges him to take a lie detector test, and Vic obliges. The next day, Vic passes by the same car that was following him, parked near a restaurant. Inside is a camera, convincing him that he's being investigated. He then sees Melinda in the restaurant, so he joins her at the table. Surprised, Melinda introduces him to a psychotherapist named David. Hearing this, Vic jokes that Melinda has schizophrenia, but David disagrees. Still suspicious, Vic excuses himself, but asks David for a business card, which the man doesn't have. Vic barges into Don's house days later, confronting him about David. He accuses him of hiring David as a private investigator, showing a bank record of Melinda transferring money to Don's account. This angers Kelly, so she apologizes to Vic. However, Don demands his wife not apologize to a man like him. Not long after, Vic sees Melinda with a man named Tony Cameron, so he follows them, aware of what his wife is doing. Back home, Trixie asks her father what it was like to drown Charlie, but he doesn't admit it. Trixie shares that everyone asked her how Vic did it, so Vic reminds her that he'd be in prison for the rest of his life if he really killed Charlie. Still, Trixie is convinced her father did it, so Vic asks her to keep it between them. Afterward, Vic overhears Melinda talking to someone who's inviting her to Brazil. She assures the caller that Trixie would get used to the place too. She then tells the person she loves him, and Vic grips the railings in anger. The next day, Vic confronts Melinda about how her night was, but she refuses to talk to him. Later, Tony greets Vic at his snail farm, who's there to meet up with Melinda. While waiting for her in the kitchen, Tony shares with Vic that he creates sustainable living spaces for the next generation. Melinda then greets Tony and reveals that he's her ex, assuring Tony that Vic doesn't care about that stuff. Tony sympathizes with Vic as he knows that Melinda is difficult to control, but adds that it's what makes her special. When discussing food, Tony suggests adding snails to the dish, but Vic tells them they're not for eating. Tony insists, so Vic shares that snails must be starved before eating them to remove the poison. After dinner, Vic quietly tidies up while Melinda and Tony have fun. Seething in quiet rage, Vic watches them head up to Melinda's room. One day, Vic drives up to Tony and tells him that Melinda wants him to see a building site. Hesitantly, Tony gets in the car. Vic carelessly drives to a remote forest trail. When they arrive, Tony searches for Melinda, but when he turns around, Vic throws a rock at his head. Seeing blood, Tony apologizes and pleads for his life, but Vic throws a rock at him, making him fall off the cliff. With him dead, Vic pulls Tony into the gorge. He takes Tony's wallet and ties him with a rock before submerging him in water. Vic soon arrives home, where he talks to Melinda about Tony as if nothing happened. At the dinner table, Vic toasts with Trixie to celebrate life. When Melinda starts worrying about Tony, Vic claims that he hasn't seen him. As everything's going smoothly, Vic prepares photographs in his office. When he meets with his family, Trixie announces that they're going on a picnic at the gorge. During their picnic, Melinda contemplates why Vic is the only man who wants to stay with her. She then lets him touch her, initiating intimacy with him. Showing his appreciation to his wife, Vic hands her an album of her photographs. This makes Melinda happy, so she kisses him. When Vic hears Trixie, he goes to check on her. As Trixie heads back to her mother, Vic spots Tony's corpse emerging from the water. Heading home, Melinda realizes that she left her scarf, so Vic promises to get it tomorrow. That night, Melinda invites her husband to sleep in her room. While in bed, Melinda says words of affection, which leads them to get intimate. The next morning, Vic rushes to the gorge. Meanwhile, Melinda looks for Vic in his snail farm but finds Tony's wallet. At the gorge, Vic gets a stick to submerge Tony's corpse. To his surprise, Don sees him, so he excuses that he's searching for Melinda's scarf. But Don has found it. Suddenly, the corpse surfaces, so Don rushes to his car. Vic chases after him with his bike and eventually takes a shortcut. At home, Melinda becomes mournful of her husband's behavior, so she packs her things. However, Trixie takes her mother's luggage and throws it at the pool, refusing to leave. In the forest, Don reaches for his phone while driving to text his wife, but Vic stumbles on the road, making him instinctively turn the wheel. This leads Don to go off the cliff and die from the crash. Relieved, Vic leaves. When he arrives home, Melinda stares at him. Before heading upstairs, she calmly claims that she saw Tony. Afterward, Melinda burns Tony's belongings as she chooses to live with her husband and his secret.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.